Welcome back. All right, so tomorrow we were supposed to have Dallas at home against Tampa, and it's been postponed as well. Not sure why Dallas isn't being put onto the road because we're already having a situation with Dallas where a lot of their games got pushed back in the first place, and now we're seeing games get pushed back again. And the first time around, you could say the fault was with Dallas. This time, it's just basically the power grid in Texas is not built for this kind of weather. And that's it. That's where we're at right now. And then it becomes a question of, so when are we going to see games at home in Dallas again? Like, how long can this go? And it could go for a while. You've got to think, what, probably maybe a week to get this all cleaned up and get everything up and running. So we'll see how many games end up getting pushed back or if they end up playing games on the road, which to me makes the most sense. For the NHL to sit down and go, okay, so how can we get a game played in Tampa instead of it being played in Dallas? You got to figure out building availability and dates and all that, and that's all wonderful and whatnot. But the game tomorrow has been postponed. Interesting stat that came out, and I didn't throw that into the news video yesterday, but I did want to talk about it. 1 in 4 Canadians tuned in to Hockey Day in Canada, where we had the 3 games on Saturday, which ran throughout the day. And I know it was on upstairs. I know my wife had it on all day. Of course, I watch down here, but she doesn't watch all the time. But there were a lot of interesting stories in that, and where they talked about hockey in Canada. And yeah, the ratings have been very, very strong for the NHL this season. Maybe the strongest they've been, period. And so this is exactly why they're playing hockey. So when I see people saying they should just call the season, look at all these teams that have been sidelined. Yeah, when the ratings are the highest that they've been, and people are really interested in all these rivalry games, and there's a lot of excitement, it is the worst possible time to shut things down. And you look at the NWHL as an example. NWHL is a league that has barely been a blip throughout most of its existence. It really felt like this year that the 2-week tournament and that whole ramping up to the Isabel Cup, that there was more excitement than there normally would be. And they were going to be on national TV, and then they shut things down, and you do wonder, like, so did it hurt more by shutting it down? And I think if the NHL were to come out tomorrow and say, no, we've decided hockey during a pandemic, we're going to shut it down, I think it would do more damage. I really do. I think it would do a lot of damage, and I think it would be I don't know, to me it would feel kind of like it's an overreaction. They've been able to deal with the pauses and the positives so far, and those positives, ending up being a net negative and all that, and having games pushed back. But I think they've done okay. I understand the difference between, how football was able to deal with it, but football is a 16-game schedule, and you're only playing 1 game a week, and you've got rosters which are huge. So, there's more of a cushion there if you do, in fact, have a couple of guys out. And even with football, there were points where things got kind of tough there. Broncos fans, I see you. So, yeah, it's exciting to see that the ratings are up. Hockey's doing very well. And this is all about building up to next season. It's about getting in what you can for this year, award a Stanley Cup, and next season is where we get back to an 82-game schedule, fans in attendance, and, teams back in their regular divisions. So we enjoy this tournament while it lasts. And it is a tournament. I'm going to come back to that, though. The New Jersey Devils today have placed Eric Comrie and Connor Carrick on waivers. The Leafs should pick up Comrie. I mean, they just picked up Galchenyuk, so might as well add Comrie, and you can have more jerseys coming into town. I feel bad for Comrie. I do. I think it's a shame. This is 2 years in a row now where he's back and forth, and I'm kind of hoping he clears waivers so that he doesn't have to worry about it. I have a feeling, though, Winnipeg picks him up. Just because that's usually what happens. He goes on waivers from Winnipeg, goes somewhere else, and then on waivers he ends up back in Winnipeg. Then he leaves, and it's kind of how that works. Maybe he wears the Jets jersey underneath whatever other jersey he's wearing at the time. Connor Carrick being on waivers doesn't necessarily surprise me. There was a play he made last night that led directly to a goal for the Rangers. And so when a defenseman's coming back, you're bringing somebody back off the injured list. Carrick would likely be the guy who gets waived. Jacob Trouba, the New York Rangers have come out and announced this. Jacob Trouba will be out 4 to 6 weeks with an upper body injury. That is troubling for a team that seems to be falling apart all over again. Chris Kreider coming out after last night's game and saying that the New Jersey Devils wanted it more. Yeah, I want to be saying that. I don't know how you fix things with the Rangers. I think that they're already in a position right now where they're probably thinking about selling off assets and getting ready for next year. But you can tell the players are getting frustrated. And I get that frustration, and with Trouba out for 4 to 6 weeks, that might be it. I don't know that they're going to be able to absorb that loss. I think that's a huge loss for a team that already had some thin blue line issues going on, right? Connor McDavid. So I know there's people who don't want Connor McDavid to be compared to Sidney Crosby, but it's moments like this that show why he gets compared to Sidney Crosby. He has 499 points going into tonight's game against Winnipeg. That's in 368 games. Crosby scored his 500th NHL point in game number 369. So he could be in the exact same spot through the exact same number of games as Crosby. And yes, Sidney Crosby also had played on a Stanley Cup champion early in his career. I wouldn't put that on McDavid. I think if you had McDavid playing in Pittsburgh right now, I think they could have won a Stanley Cup in between 2018 and now. If he gets it tonight, and he probably will, because it's against Winnipeg and those games tend to be kind of goal happy, I would expect that we'll continue to hear, okay, so how else can we compare him to Sid the Kid going forward? And maybe that'll be a new tracker, since Ovechkin's not getting goals this year. So the whole, how's the Chase of Gretzky going? It's not. So maybe that's the new thing that they can drive people crazy with, is the McDavid-Crosby comparisons. Because you got to have comparisons, right? Mark Bergevin, I had to kind of chuckle at this, and he's right. Bergevin was basically asked about his assessment for Montreal as to where they're at right now, and he basically answered with, I don't really have one. So one thing about this season is, because it's played where they're all rivalry games and you're against the same 6 teams in Canada, same 7 teams in whichever division you're in the U.S., you have a limited amount of information. Bergevin has no idea how Montreal would play against Vegas, Colorado, St. Louis, how they would play against Boston, Washington, Pittsburgh, Philly, or how they would fare even against, say, Detroit. Last year they struggled with Detroit. We don't have any idea. We don't know how they do against Florida, Carolina, Tampa. There's limited information, and I think that makes it fascinating going forward to when we get to the semifinals and the playoffs. But he's right. We don't know where these teams are at. And so when I'm doing power rankings board, I have to kind of go, this is where I think we're at. But unlike seasons prior, comparing teams from different divisions against each other, it really is just, kind of an eyeball test and kind of an expectation, and I think this is where we're at. So we do see teams, I think, that have really good records right now that may not be great teams. We also have teams, I think, with really poor records that are probably better than their record. They're in a division against teams that have their number, and vice versa. Some teams are in divisions against teams that they know how to beat. So it is interesting. It'll be very interesting to see how the draft order is affected. Of course, when that draft is, we don't know right now. But I thought it was a nice, candid, and correct. I think he's absolutely 100% correct about that. So kudos to Mark Bergevin for A. The epic muscles, the epic hair. If you haven't seen his hair lately, it's spectacular. And I may not be a Montreal fan, but they're very enjoyable to watch, and they're enjoyable to follow. So there you go. So yesterday, of course, there was the news that broke about Arizona and their treatment of staff, their treatment of vendors, their treatment of anybody they owe money to. And it caused some backlash, but I mean just a little bit. People quibbling over anonymous sources, which are a staple in reporting. That goes back many, many years. And for people who are currently employed by the organization, clearly you're not going to put your name on it, because Even if you have a whistleblower law, they can make your life miserable. I know from working at locations where maybe things aren't optimal, that if something comes out, like, I mean, around here, it might be something that ends up getting to, at jobs I've had, maybe it gets to Canadian Food Inspection Agency, or CFIA for short. Something gets out to the labor representation bodies from around Canada or wherever, right? So maybe something comes out and then things get better because they have to, because they just got their hands slapped by CFIA or by some labor board. You don't want to be the guy who started it. Even if the bosses are going, hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for helping us make things safer. You do not want to be, because they'll be like, oh, that was nice of you. So here's your new job. We can't fire you, but we can make you as miserable as humanly possible until you quit. And so that's why people will release, like, there's emails that were had by Katie Strang in this. This was a very well researched document. This was not just some 2-paragraph fluff piece. It was very well researched. And if this is happening with other teams, because I've seen people saying, well, maybe this is happening with other teams too. Maybe this is just how things are done. Then okay, then let's report on that too, because that's still not right. And if you as a reporter look at something like this and you see it, basically this situation, and you go, well, I could report on this, but why? I mean, if I report on this, I may ask for an interview at a later date with somebody from the team, and they might say, well, you wrote that piece on us, so to heck with you. You have to be willing to take that risk. You have to be willing as a reporter to report the truth. And if there's a repercussion that comes against you at a later date, or another team you call, say you call the Buffalo Sabres and say, look, I'm doing a report on, they go, oh, we saw that bit you did on the Arizona Coyotes. Forget that. You have to take that risk. That's part and parcel of the job. And I think too often with media, they don't delve far enough into it, and it allows really egregious behavior to continue. And I think we've seen a lot of that over the years too, where a coach, there'll be horrible accusations against a coach, and it'll be, oh, well, yeah, the media already knew. The media knew that, but they didn't report on it because then they'd lose access to the team. So again, Arizona, the statement I thought that they gave out yesterday was kind of telling. It didn't really say, well, she didn't tell the truth. It was kind of a, she shouldn't have written that article, and we're looking at suing her. Okay, well, that's good luck. Anyways, I'll monitor it for anything further that may happen, but I really can't see a lawsuit actually happening. But hey, we'll see, right? And I'll be here to report on that if/when that comes. It's not gonna. I really can't see it. Honestly, can't see it. Because it's funny too, because it was part of the article. Part of the article was they always kind of threaten, well, if we have to go to court. And their response to this article is, this is terrible. Well, if we have to go to court. The whole statement from them kind of just added to her. She might as well just tack that at the bottom of her article. Fight the good fight, Katie. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for all your support. It means a ton. It's a nice, sunny, relatively warm day here. Hopefully that warmth will spread to the rest of North America. And I'm thinking about people in Texas. Stay warm, bundle up, and one thing about freezing pipes for people who are in the south, I know here you leave your water running. Not the whole time, not like really, but just a little bit of water running. Just basically a drip, and it keeps the pipes from freezing. That's something I learned when I was a kid, was that our pipes froze underneath. I lived in a mobile home, our pipes froze up, and it was just we hadn't left the water running. And it's just, you leave it just on a little bit, and it keeps your pipes from freezing. So best of luck to everybody in Texas and everybody being affected in the US by the cold snap. And again, if you're not used to it, I'm not going to mock you for not being used to it. All right. Thank you guys so much for everything. I will talk to you again soon.